it's not very uncommon that you hear phrases like just wait until the traditional car manufacturers like Volvo, BMW, and whatever comes out with proper EVs. No one wants to buy a Tesla anymore. Well, this is my take on it. So I've been discussing for quite some time now on social media about what I think about the future of EVs. The thing is that I believe that the traditional car manufacturers actually have three fundamental problems that they need to solve. And the first thing is that they actually have a good business model according to themselves. For instance, Volkswagen is producing like 10 million cars every year. And why should we invest a lot of money in developing something that compete with our own product? It feels like it's about the same story all over the board, all over the traditional car manufacturers. They already have good products according to themselves. So why compete? And that brings me to the second point, and that is that they are actually really good at building traditional ICE vehicles. They have engineers that have been doing this for ages, and they've been really good at doing it. But just because you're a really good traditional car manufacturer doesn't mean that you're a good manufacturer in designing and producing EVs. Yes, this is still the same basic components like a steering wheel, and you have four wheels, etc. But if you take a look at the attempts made by traditional car manufacturers, usually they put a motor in the front with the inverter and everything as a replacement for the engine that usually is placed there in a normal car. So they usually reuse a lot of the platforms that they already have in-house, and that's might be good in an economic perspective now, but it doesn't make that it's the best EV or the EV with the best drag coefficient, etc. So and that's something that we also seen with the attempts, for instance, with the Jaguar I-Pace and also the e-tron when comparing against, for instance, the Tesla Model X in highway speeds. You see that the Model X is actually performing much better because it's consuming less energy than the counterparts from the traditional manufacturers. And the third thing is actually the dealers. So what I mean with that? Well, the thing is, traditional car manufacturers sell the cars through dealers. And the dealers usually don't make much money off selling cars. What they do earn a lot of money is aftermarket, servicing, repairs, and all of that. But with an EV, is much less of servicing cost, much less, that you don't have any oil replacement. In a traditional ICE vehicle, you have about 2,000 moving parts, but in an EV, you only have about 20. So it's not as much that can fail in an EV. So I think that will be a challenge. And we see, at least in this country, if you go to a dealer and say, but I want to take a look at the EV that you have. And usually they say, maybe you should check out these diesel car we have instead. Because they know that they will earn a lot more money in the long run on that ICE vehicle than they will do on the EV. So I think that's actually a big problem for the traditional manufacturers. And as a bonus, it's recently been kind of crazy, at least here in Europe, about the European car manufacturers doesn't believe in EVs. They say that, but the customers doesn't want to have EVs. They want to have hybrids. Obviously, these executives hasn't been taking a close look at Norway. In Norway, about 50% of the new car sales is actually actually pure EVs or battery EVs. So the demand is there. It's just that they don't have anything to offer. That's also why the Tesla Model 3 is the most popular car in Norway, because they can actually deliver the amount of cars that the customers want in the country. And that's also interesting if you take a look at, for instance, Kia or Hyundai or whatever. It seems like there's quite small numbers that actually get delivered every year. So even if you reserve one now, it seems like it's quite a long waiting line for it to be delivered. But then you might say that, okay, but I mean, if the current or the Western car companies doesn't produce any EVs, I mean, Tesla can't cover all the demand, right? No. But I think that we will see a shift to, for instance, Chinese manufacturers or Indian manufacturers. The last time I took a look, there's quite a lot of manufacturers producing only EVs in China. And once they got the volumes up for a more broader markets, for instance, Europe and the US, well, then you might have a problem, because China has been actually buying a lot of how-to in building safe cars. For instance, they bought the Volvo cars. It's a Chinese company owning Volvo cars. They bought the Saab brand. So they actually have a lot of know-how in especially how to create a car. Not necessarily an EV. But they will learn and they will produce. You can just take a look back 10 or 15 years ago, the cars were pure crap. But nowadays, they're actually producing decent ICE cars as well. And there's over 40 manufacturers just in China alone producing only battery electric vehicles. So that's kind of interesting. And I think we will see a shift, because when your neighbors start buying an EV and they tell their friends and they have, to try it out, and it's going to come to a critical mass, and then everyone wants an EV. And at that point, if the traditional car manufacturers doesn't have anything to offer, well, they will be in deep trouble. That's what I believe. Maybe they will merge, they will buy other companies, I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see this development, and I think that they really need to get things moving in the EV markets to stay in the game in the future. Well, that's my take on it. Please, if you have any more input in the subject, comment. And if you're interested in a Tesla, check out the description for my referral. And well, thanks for watching. Drive safely. And I see you in the next one.